The grind of the Major League Baseball season rolls on, and we have you covered here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We are brought to you by Rival Fantasy. I'm Clay Link here with FSWA Hall of Famer Todd Zola. A little bit of a late start this afternoon. Thanks for bearing with me, Todd, through some tech issues. But yeah, we're back. Busy day in the stake league last night. I put in 30 bids, Todd. But I didn't really feel like anybody was really worth paying up for, so most of those were $1 or $0 bids. But yeah, it was active, so we'll get into those. But how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing fine. I'm trying to get a projection for Ryan Walker, so we can his name will come up a little bit later. But yeah, so no, things are fine. No Wrigley game today. So eagerly waiting the ball tonight, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we got everybody starting around the same time tonight, so a little time to set your lineups, recalibrate if you need to. I mentioned that I had 30 bids in the stake league, and actually my third drop I didn't even get, so everybody else was scooped up. Like I wanted to drop Christian Vasquez, couldn't do it, so I was able to get a couple of people. We'll get into those, but Matt McLain was the top pickup, $19. They do still have, Barrero's hanging around, Kevin Newman, but they made it clear that they're going to bring up McLain to play, and definitely a notable prospect. But you see a guy that's worth about 20% of your budget.
Yeah, especially since he just already had his series in Coors, right? Mm-hmm. Right to the fire, hitting second in the lineup in Coors Field. I suppose. I mean, it seems like we're talking about pitching, kind of forgetting that hitting is up this year, and you can't afford to fall behind in the bats, right? I mean, you just can't. And I don't know if McLain is the answer, but there are enough middle infielders not performing that I think he is worth taking a chance on.
Yeah, I could see that. I had only actually my top priority was Paul DeYoung. So I had Paul DeYoung slightly ahead of McLain, but
DeYoung's
I think I'm a little behind the pack even as a Reds fan. Yeah. I am a Reds pessimist though.
DeYoung's still striking out at a high rate. So I know he's hitting for power right now. So whether he's able to sustain it or not remains to be seen. And St. Louis has been shown to ride the streaks and pull the trigger when DeYoung, I'm not going to say if, but if, not when, but if DeYoung slumps. So, yeah, that's interesting because they've got a lot of moving parts. I mean, Tommy Edman plays shortstop when DeYoung's not there, but, play second, play third, and Gorman, and there's a lot of parts there in St. Louis, and, one of which is still in AAA Memphis with Walker that need to find space. And Juan Yepes is hitting a little bit now too, to just cloud cloud things up, more of a logjam.
Actually, the top two pickups were Reds, and the second one was actually Nick Lodolo. So Lodolo dropped in light of his injury and struggles, and MRI showing a stress reaction in his tibia, Nick Lodolo. So the big lefty going to be in a walking boot for 2 weeks, then another MRI in 2 weeks to check up. So looking at at least a month. I guess the better question in terms of instead of picking him up is, are you holding him if you drafted him, or is this just time to move on from Nick Lodolo?
Yeah, this is not a keeper league. It's the stake league. So, I mean, listen, if you have a spot and there was just no one else you wanted, sure. But if you need that spot, that roster spot, you can't. Who's to say what Lodolo will do when he's back? And I would think that Cincinnati's primary goal will be to get him enough innings so that next year He's worked pretty much, you don't have to worry about the innings, get him to 100 if possible. Not that, that implies Cincinnati may compete next year, but you know what? You never know. We've seen teams come out a year or two early, and we say that we won about the Reds, but they do have some young kids on the way, although next year is a little early, but even so.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe they could force that window open 2025, maybe 2024 is a little early, but you never know. You're right that these teams with these young cores seem to force that window open ahead of time. James Paxton, $11 ad here behind Matt McLain and Nick Lodolo. I saw Alex Cora was saying after his debut, like the old Paxton,
Hit
9
97.
days to 1 walk.
He was hitting 97. It's forcing Pivetta to the bullpen. We'll see what happens when Garrett Whitlock is ready fairly soon, back to a 6-man or what they end up doing. But Paxton, you kind of have to ride that train when he's healthy, right? And then be ready to board another train when he's not healthy.
Yeah, I hear you. Just addressing something real quick. All right, let's take a look at the other pickups. Wandy Peralta of the Yankees, he goes for $11 as well. I don't know. Michael King, Clay Holmes seems to be kind of falling out of favor. What do you think about Peralta's chances?
I'm gonna disagree with falling out of favor. Holmes is being used in a fireman role. He's coming in when the meat of the order's up between the 7th and the 9th, which bums us out as fantasy players. But Aaron Boone is quietly managing that bullpen like you should, man. I think so anyway. The other day, Toronto, he was brought up in the 8th inning. Holmes, that is, in the 8th inning when Bichette, Varsho, and Chapman, Guerrero wasn't playing this game. So it was brought in, in the heart of the order in the 8th. So I think, Peralta's Kennedy's hurt, King. They're going to get a couple saves. I don't think Holmes isn't going to stop getting saves, but it's just one of those cases you can't count on it. He's managing like a Stratomatic advantage.
Yeah, I hear you there. Yeah, I have Holmes in a league or two, so I'm holding on, but it's looking like a busted pick right now. Brenton Doyle of the Colorado Rockies. Sorry, I'm kind of working through these audio issues still, but thanks for bearing with me. I think I had a $1 bid on Doyle. He has been playing well, but hard for me to buy into a guy like this who, a lot of his production propped up by cores. $7. Does that sound close to you, Todd, or a little off?
Yeah. Now this league goes Friday to Thursday, correct?
Yep. Friday through Thursday.
Colorado has, I believe, the first time this year that they're at home Monday through Sunday starts next week. There are a couple more occasions, but the majority of their schedule is split each week, which is good. I mean, you get to use the guy half the week, but it's the first week, I believe, this season where the Rockies have 7 games at home. So that's, those that aren't playing Thursday or, the Friday to Thursday, keep that in mind for guys like Doyle and maybe some of the other lesser Rockies that might still be available.
Next up, Dylan Floro. Excuse me. AJ Puck's now on the IL, so yeah. Floro's been getting some chances. Mark Vientos. You and I were talking a little bit about Mark Vientos' RotoWire projection. We boosted him up, but you and I both kind of iffy on the playing time. Well, seems like you kind of settled on a short side platoon role for now.
A little more than that. But having read today on a site called RotoWire, I believe, that Brett Beatty is going to play some left field. So that tells you that the Mets would like Vientos' bat in the lineup. I'm trying to who does that hurt? Who's out? Who might that hurt? Maybe Nemo. I'm trying to who would lose playing time on the Mets as far as that goes. But I think I'm going to leave Vientos playing it's about half the time from here to the rest of the season. It could get boosted up a bit, but I think that's fair as a right-handed batter for now. to assume Vientos plays half the time because he could struggle and be sent down. I have him on my Tout Wars team, so I'm selfishly hoping. I dropped Yuli Gurriel for him, so I'm hoping he's better than Yuli Gurriel. I think that's a reasonable, assumption on my part that he outproduces Gurriel. So that's what I have to hope for.
I wonder if Mark Canha might see a dip. He's only got a 671 OPS.
Yeah, and he's a right-handed batter.
Yeah.
So that he could be the guy.
He's I would bet he's probably the one.
Yep, he's he's the one.
Alex Wood, $6. Oscar Mercado for speed play, but I don't know about that. Miguel Castro's been seeing some save chances for Arizona. Sounds like they kind of wanted to have Andrew Chafin in a more flexible role. So,
yeah, Chafin was doing the job though.
Yeah, still is. I think they just kind of want to, not put all that burden on him. Chaz McCormick for 3, Paul DeYoung for 3. He's just whatever it is that Devil Magic's found its way to Paul DeYoung. Brandon Belak, Trevor Larnach, who I dropped last week, but he was brought right back up and had a big homer. Mickey Moniak. Then I got Brandon Williamson. I had very low hopes for his debut. I kind of was among that group that was like, this is so Reds to call up a top prospect to have him debut in Coors, and then what does he do? He goes out there and absolutely shines in Coors. So this is no scrub prospect either, Brandon Williamson. 25 years old, 6 Ks to only 2 walks, and only 2 hits in that massive Coors Field outfield. So
he was
impressive run for him.
He was in the Mariners deal, right? Got him from the Mariners?
I believe so. Yeah, he was in the Castillo deal, I think, right?
Yeah.
He was 59th overall pick in 2019, traded to Cincinnati along with Fraley. It was in the Winker and Suarez deal, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Not the Luis Castillo deal. Mariners really are Reds West, so I can cheer for them a little bit. All right, last pickups here. Alex Faedo for $1. Michael Massey for $1. Gavin Sheets for $1. Then $0 adds Patrick Corbin, Jake Irvin, Kyle Farmer, Ryan Noda, Emmett Sheehan.
Wait, only 0 for Noda?
Yeah, Noda has been playing pretty well, huh?
That surprises me. Okay, good. I mean, good pickup. I think, similar to a lot of the other. I know first base may be a little bit more deeper. That's why we have a delete key when I write, and editors when I write. But anyway, I would have assumed Noda. He's hitting second. I mean, I would have assumed he'd be already gone.
Well, that's kind of Oakland for you, It's a tree falling in the woods sort of deal.
There you go.
Yeah, you just gonna have to really look for it, or else you won't notice. I picked up Zach Greinke on a $0 ad. He's in this lineup here. He lines up for 2, and this will probably burn me, but he's been pitching well lately. And he's not a great option, but it was either Zach Greinke for 2 in this lineup period, or maybe Gavin Stone, who it looks like he'll be starting next week, but they still haven't announced him, and who knows? So
right.
I just went with Greinke in my active lineup instead of Gavin Stone this week. I also made a trade in this league just yesterday. Traded Jose Alvarado for Tyler Stevenson. It's only a 1-catcher league, but man, I was wrong about Christian Vasquez, Todd. I just had to get Christian Vasquez.
Yeah, so I mean, Vasquez is, to me, he's a can't hurt you type, and apparently he's just not there yet. He's not providing the batting average floor that you get him for.
Yeah, no homers, 245 average. It's just been pretty ugly for Vasquez. So got an upgrade in Stevenson, and Alvarado was fantastic, but it's kind of a deal that I just could not pass up.
No, I like that.
Let's see what else we got here on the Stake League. I think that's pretty much it. Bobby Miller, Jared Schuster. So that's a bit. It'll be another busy one, but no Yuri Perez in the mix this week. None of those huge big dollar ads.
Right.
Any other players on your mind to potentially pick up this weekend?
Have not gone deep into that yet. I'm trying to think what players that I haven't lost. I mean, I usually, when I do the early research, it's because I've lost somebody and I want to get a jump on who I might replace them, who might use as a replacement. Fortunately, I haven't lost anybody this week. So, I will do the work over the weekend and do the fat, etc. But it's a rare week where I'm not, pulling my hair out what's lit because of an injury. I got Corey Seager back in a couple of places, knock on wood.
Yeah, same. That's a big one. Well, before we move on to talk a little rival fantasy, I want to tell you a little bit about the company and our new sponsor here on the pod. A new MLB season means it's time for a new kind of daily fantasy baseball. Rival Fantasy is the fantasy platform reinventing the way daily and weekly games are played, and they've brought new games to the ballpark this year that fantasy players won't find anywhere else. Rival Fantasy's games include Fantasy Bingo, head-to-head player challenges, and Fantasy Book, where users can select over-unders for 2 to 5 players. With games like this, daily fantasy has never been better. Right now, RotoWire listeners can get a $50 protected first play. That means if you win your first play, you keep the winnings. But if you lose your first entry, Rival Fantasy will fully refund you up to $50. Go to play.rivalfantasy.com/signup and use code RotoWireMLB at signup and deposit a minimum of $25 to get your first entry on Rival protected up to $50. Now's the time to step up to the plate and become a rival today. Welcome to the arena. Mentioned the Fantasy Book option there at Rival, and that's what Todd and I are going to be focusing on as we have the past few weeks. And Todd, you've kind of been bold enough to take some over-unders on hitters. I still, it's just hitting in a given day is so tough, and you need all these to hit to win the game. So I just find the hitters to be a little too untrustworthy. So I'm sticking to the pitching, but you got a couple hitters on the docket today.
Yeah, when I put my little 3-man or 2-man rosters in, I wager a few more shekels on the pitchers. But we get the Rival wants us to talk. I think we need to talk about batters as well. And I think you mentioned the biggest point in that they're just an 0 for 4 is so easy, right? So you try to pick up batters who have platoon edge, you just feel really comfortable are going to go over. And it bleeds into my DFS approach in that I think I'm more of a cash game player in that you nail the pitching and that, I pay down for I can't afford as good of batters, but there's so much variance that I don't care as much. I understand you stack to get GPO. I'm not, whatever. I think there's so much variance in batters that I don't mind building a lineup with lower priced batters, but this isn't that. This is Rival. So I did do 3 hitters this week, one of which being Corey Seager, who I mentioned, but I'm doing much better on the hitting side of pitching side of the ledger. Although this week, did okay. I'm trying to remember what Monday or Tuesday night, who I'm mad at this week for not coming. The 5 times I did okay, I don't remember, but that one pitcher that didn't do what I expected to do is So anyway,
always right.
Yeah,
that's how it is, and I get it. Since you need all these to hit, I found that the hitters going 0 for 4 is just throws a wrench into the whole thing, and far more likely to hit on some pitching. So for the time being, I'm going to stick to just 2 hitters, or 2 pitchers rather, over under.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to take the over tonight on Shane McClanahan.
Yep.
He's the second highest projected total on the board among pitchers or among all players, behind just Zach Gallen. But I think he clears that number, 21.78 tonight against Milwaukee. Milwaukee's not a terrible team, but it's not a lineup that scares me at all. And McClanahan, gosh, I wish I'd kind of not put as much weight on that late season injury last year as I did, because having a lot of FOMO on Shane McClanahan right now.
Well, I think it's still up in the air how many innings he gets down the stretch. I think he's going to pitch a lot, but was he worth that third or fourth overall pitching pick? He's coming off either it was his last outing and the one previous, his first rough outing of the year. But I have him over as well. As I've talked about for the past couple of weeks, if I'm going over on a pitcher, I want to be pretty darn sure that he's going to get the win. And like you said, Milwaukee's tough, but I'm more confident in McClanahan and the Rays getting the win than some of the other pitchers who I would have needed to take the over.
Yeah, I hear you there. And then my second one, and maybe this is, I don't know, maybe me doubling down on having Zach Greinke, just picked him up in stakes. But 9.44 points against the White Sox. White Sox maybe ticked it up a little bit. It seems like Luis Robert Jr. is kind of getting off the schneid a little bit, but that's fewer projected points than Steven Matz, Chris Bryant, Ryan McMahon, Blackman, Acuna. So I think Greinke, even though he's old and doesn't miss many bats, man, the guy can still eat innings and he can still get the job done to an extent. So I think against the White Sox, he clears 9.44 points.
Yeah, I've got him projected for 10.4, so I have him scoring more. He's got a decent chance to get the win, which kind of by definition puts him there, because that means he has 5 innings, which gets you points and the win. So I considered Zach Greinke, and Kopech is opposing him. Yeah, I mean, he could strike out 10 and he can give up 10 runs. Kopech is still inconsistent.
Yeah, White Sox slightly favored here at home, but I mean, it's only minus 130. I think it's pretty darn even. So
yeah,
we'll see if Greinke can navigate that White Sox lineup. Who else do you like tonight?
All right, I also have got a couple of unders. I just think that under, unless you're really sure the pitcher going over, you look for the unders. Blake Snell, I like the Red Sox pick, but Red Sox are hitting lefties really well, and Blake Snell is at 19.92, which tells me he needs to get the win in order to get that. That's a lot of points without the win, and I don't think he's going to get it. And similarly with Sandy Alcantara, I've got at 20.13, not getting the strikeouts, not going as deep into games, and I don't think Miami is assured the win, even with Alcantara on the mound. So I think that's a pretty big number for Alcantara. Now, I like rooting for Alcantara, so it's kind of like, I can't enjoy watching him pitch as much as I normally do, but I'm rooting for my team, if you will, instead. Real quick, I took Corey Seager over 8.92. I believe he's got Kaufman about the returning or not starting for the Rockies. Mookie, he's got a lefty. I forget who. I can look it up. And Byron Buxton also has got a lefty. So I want the platoon advantage, and I want guys that can get you that, get their points with one stroke. And
yeah, Betts has got Matz.
Yeah, Steven Matz. So a home run is worth about 14 points. So, and these are both 8. I want a guy that can get it in like one fell swoop. So those are my 3 batters. And you can go with 2 or 3. The payout ramps up accordingly. So I'm just what I normally do, little strategy wise, I'll pick 3 and I'll pick 2 that I'm sure about. Then I'll pick a different one for the third and kind of hedge with the 2 and then try to hit on both of those. So I hit on a couple of those this week, past couple of weeks, which is what, cool. But, you miss one and you suddenly don't, you break even for the evening. And, that's a danger when you do this sort of thing. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to two just because I feel like I just need to minimize my chances of getting one wrong
Right.
because it
No.
is so hard to. I mean, it's a fantasy game. It's not a parlay, but you kind of got to think of it as a parlay of sorts.
Right. Well, yeah, and the payout is the same percentage, 2.5 to 1, if you bet if you try on 2 players or 3. When you go to 4, game theory wise, the payout isn't as much. So I don't think it's an efficient try on 4. If the payout was commensurate with the other 2, sure, but it's not. So I don't. If there are 4 guys I like, I will do a 3 and a 3 and have all 4 guys in there. I don't think picking 4 is an efficient way to do it.
Well, to recap, my picks tonight over on Shane McClanahan against Milwaukee over 21.78 points, and then Zach Greinke over 9.44. And can you remind us your picks, Todd?
Yes, Blake Snell over 19 point. Under 19.9. Sandy Alcantara under 20, and McClanahan, I'm with you, over 21.78. And then I'm going to hope for Corey Seager, Mookie, and Byron Buxton to get a couple hits.
Awesome. Well, join us over at Rival if you get a chance. We're having a lot of fun with it, and we appreciate their sponsorship, of course.
Yep.
Real quick before we move on, another word from one of our new sponsors, StableDuel. Baseball has always been America's pastime, but a close second is horse racing. We've got the best way to get in on the action. StableDuel brings a new way to play the races, and this weekend they have over $20,000 in prizes for the Preakness Stakes. Select your team or your stable of horses and compete against other players for big money prizes. Watch your stable move up the leaderboard as your horses accumulate points based on where they finish the race. Don't know anything about horse racing? Don't worry. The app has all you need to know with free data on each horse's record, as well as a risk, speed, and value number for choosing your best runners. This is the first game of its kind, and you don't want to miss out. Get in on the action and start perfecting your strategy. Download the StableDuel app now and begin building your winning stable. Play, race, win with StableDuel. Download StableDuel.com. Download at StableDuel.com. Now, Todd, before we move on, we had a question about Louis Varland from Daniel in the chat, and he was picked up last week in the stake league, so we talked about him briefly. But aside from the home runs, he's been bit by the long ball a little bit, but everything else looks pretty darn good. A 22.1 K minus BB. And yeah, you regress those home run numbers. He's got a 3.26 xFIP. So are you buying in on Louis Varland as a capable mixed league fantasy option?
Yes. For another reason, I talked about this a little bit with James Anderson. Minnesota, in general, their organization has kind of entered our circle of trust when it comes to pitching. They seem to know what they're doing. They don't have a system and force the pitcher into that system. They look what the pitcher can do and go from there, right? I mean, there's some teams that you're not throwing that pitch, you're throwing this pitch, and it's specifically, Sonny Gray is an example. They let Sonny do what he needs to do. So I am, in part because of that reason, I believe they will bring something on in Varland. Now, looking at our grid for next week, a game against Toronto, I don't love him next week. So picking him up this week, maybe you pick him up and don't use him, or if you have to, you cross your fingers. I think it is at Minnesota, which is helps a bit. But yes, I think Louis Varland is in that streaming realm the rest of the season. I don't know if I don't set and forget, but I think Varland is a streamer the rest of the year, sure.
Then we had another question, Sue, here. Kind of interesting for those looking for a short-term Manny Machado replacement. Nick Senzel or Jake Berger? Senzel's been a great story so far, but Berger's pop, I'd bank on personally.
Yeah, he's a homer in the 3 games he's been back, and
He's got like 10, doesn't he?
Yeah, right. Yes, but he's hit a home in 3 of the 4 games since he's been back. He's gone long, and the lineup is being adjusted to get him more playing time. Berger. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, didn't he have like the Whopper or Big Mac doesn't work, but there needs to be a nickname for Burger, shouldn't there be? Anyway, but
I guess his nickname's just his last name's kind of a nickname.
To an extent, I suppose, yeah. But anyway,
wonder, because isn't Eloy's coming back from that appendectomy pretty soon?
Right, but but the White Sox are finding ways to keep Burger in the lineup, and I mean, but the thing about it is, the argument isn't Senzel isn't hitting well, because he is, right?
He's been fantastic.
Well.
Yeah, I've been shocked, honestly.
I suppose if you want to go granular and say, if all you want is power, Burger, if you want a little bit of everything, Senzel, is that fair? Or if you want power more, Burger, and if you want a little of everything, Senzel?
Yeah, I just remember Senzel's battled so many injuries, and Burger's had his fair share too, but I'm just still skeptical on Senzel staying on the field, so we'll have to wait and see. There was a question too about Michael Harris. I would not recommend dropping him yet. It all, of course, is relative to who's available to pick up. But unless you're in like a 8-team mixed league, I would not drop Michael Harris personally. Well, Todd, anything else on your mind before we get into these 2-star pitchers?
Real quick, the question on the Red Sox as far as when Duvall comes back, I think you'll just see a rotation, including through DH. I think if Tristan Casas is going to pick it up, or else you see more Justin Turner at first base, and these things usually take care of themselves. Both Duran and Duvall are kind of found money, so if you get 4 or 5 games a week, that's more than you expected. But I think they'll just have a rotation using the designated hitter, and we'll see what happens at the time. And Casas has shown signs of breaking out, so I just think you'll see a bunch of platoons and cycling through those spots.
Yeah, I think that's well put. So we are going to go through all of next week's 2-star pitchers, giving them a 0 to 5 grade. 5 being the best, of course, turn them loose everywhere. 0 being hands off completely. So this is the week of May 22nd, a week off from Memorial Day here. So the week of May 22nd, you can, of course, go to our probable pitchers grid and then customize grid, custom start date 5/22/2023, and check back closer to FAAB time to get a better idea, because these will always be changing. Tommy Henry's got to be a 0, right? I haven't really done a dive on Tommy Henry, but he just sounds like a 0, doesn't he?
Yeah, at Philly versus Boston. Yeah, it's that I've got him ranked in the 140s. So yeah, I'm going 0.
Yeah, 3 homers allowed his last 2 starts, and 6 Ks to 5 walks. So yeah, I don't see any reason Tommy Henry should be above a 0. Spencer Strider's lockdown 5, and I saw that our buddy Rob Silver was tweeting about just how good he's been in terms of adjusted K percentage. Is pretty crazy. So Spencer Strider's easy 5, and then who else? Dylan Dodd for Atlanta. They're kind of getting tested in that rotation here with Fried and others out. So Dodd against the Dodgers and then against the Phillies, both at home. So tough 2-step. I think I'm going to go 0 for Dodd, honestly. I can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, Sneeko to win, maybe. I'm going to go with 1, but I don't love it.
You're going to go 1 on Dodd?
I'm going to go 1 on Dodd, yeah.
Todd, 1 on Dodd. Okay. Next up, Kyle Bradish for the Baltimore Orioles at the Yankees versus Texas. He's starting to get his numbers turned around, Kyle Bradish. Yeah. He does have to oppose Garrett Cole, though, on Tuesday, so that's could be tough trying to get the win there. You never know, but
this is Baltimore. They're ahead.
Yeah,
this is the
crazy
second best record in the league.
Well, the best catcher in baseball.
They were tied with the Dodgers for the second best record in the league. How about that?
That's crazy. Yeah,
so maybe it's Garrett Cole will have trouble getting the win against the Orioles.
Yeah, maybe. So at the Yankees versus Texas, Initially, in my head, I said 4, but that sounded high, so I'm going to go 3.
I'm going 3 as well.
That just sounds right. For the Boston Red Sox, no 2-star pitchers. And why is that? Are they inserting?
It could be Whitlock coming
Whitlock.
back. Yeah, they could go into a 6-man with Whitlock. Yeah.
Whitlock threw 4 innings Tuesday for AAA Worcester.
Yeah.
So he is nearing his way back. We do have him projected to return next weekend, so that makes sense.
And if anybody, Tanner Houck is probably going to the bullpen anyway, which is why he's not, which is why he's going, or he's not even listed for a second start.
That's right. Drew Smiley, he have a 2.86 ERA versus the Mets versus the Reds. You never know when you get a day at Wrigley where the wind's blowing out, but he's been so darn good, Drew Smiley. Probably going to blow up on you eventually, but I think 2 home starts. I'm tempted to go 4, but I'm going to go 3.
I'm not tempted. I'm going 4.
Wow. So you like him more than like Bradish?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I mentioned that I picked up Brandon Williamson in the stake league. Now with how lineups work in that league, he's only lined up for 1 at home against St. Louis. So I didn't start him.
Right.
But in traditional Monday through Sunday leagues, he's versus St. Louis at the Cubs. Talked about how he went into Coors and pitched exceedingly well. St. Louis has kind of turned it on, so I'm kind of like, a little iffy on them. I think I'm going to go. I'm going to go 1 on Brandon Williamson, but he's a pickup to kind of see what happens.
I have him as a 0, but I think I'm going to do some adjustments to get him up into 1. So I'm going to agree and go 1.
All right. Then Graham Ashcraft, it's really things have taken a nosedive for him. He got hit by that comebacker, and it's just all around poor performance so far. I think we were asked a couple weeks ago who we would sell high on among a group, and I think you said Graham Ashcraft, and that's looking, sage at this point, Todd. Same 2-step for him as Williamson versus St. Louis at the Cubs. I'm going to give Ashcraft a 2, but it's suddenly just, it's not working as well as it was earlier.
I need to double check my numbers on him, but I'm going to leave him at 1, or I'm going to say 1, and see if it needs to be raised. But I'm going to say 1.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Peyton Battenfield, 0-5, 5.19 ERA, winless on the year. I can't really see anything to like. 7 homers allowed in 34.2 innings, 27 Ks, so not even a strikeout per inning, 12 walks. That's a 0.
Yeah, I don't have to readjust. It's a 0.
All right. Next up, and I'm logging these so that we can recap at the end. Chase Anderson, he's still around, huh? And hey, yeah, that's right. He did pitch against the Reds and somehow shut them down completely. But I still, he's been around for a long time. He's 35 years old. I think Chase Anderson is who he is, and he's got 2 home starts. That's going to be a 0.
He's with Colorado, right?
Yep.
Just want to emphasize it's with the Rockies, right? 2 home starts, right? No, he's a 0.
Yeah, and Gomber too. Gomber's got to be a 0.
I mean, home against Miami and the Mets isn't the worst setup unless your home is Colorado.
Exactly. Mike Clevenger at Cleveland, at Detroit. Pretty nice little 2-step. Let's see how he's been pitching lately.
Not terrible.
I just don't like the guy, but he hasn't been pitching that poorly. Over his last 4 starts, he's got a 4.30 ERA, 1.30 WHIP, 22 to 8 K to walk. So not that special, but not terrible. And with these matchups, I think like Clevenger at this point is a 1 pitcher with 3 matchups, so he's going to be a 2 for me.
I'm going to give him the 3. I think he's pitching better lately, and I'm not scared of Cleveland anymore. I mean, I think until they show they're that grind it out, move the next man line, next in line lineup, I'm not scared.
Dylan Cease, same two-step for him. And I don't know how to value Dylan Cease right now. You were all over the walk issues, and I mean it was easy to see those coming back to bite him, but I did not see these kind of struggles anyway. So Dylan Cease, I think I'm going to have to go with 4. It doesn't feel right, but
I'm going to go 5.
Wow.
I just think these matchups are too good.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a week where if he crushes, you sell high. I don't know that Detroit and Cleveland have got the patience to take advantage of the walks or the power to take advantage of the walks. So to me, it's a low end 5, but I'm going to go 5.
Michael Lorenzen's been a nice surprise for the Detroit Tigers. 3.44 ERAs at Kansas City versus the White Sox. Yeah, that's pretty nice. I imagine in leagues where he's available, he'll be on a lot of lists this weekend. So, Erod, I'm going to give a 5, even after his recent hiccup. I think Michael Lorenzen's a 3, actually.
Yeah, I have Erod as the number 7 pitcher overall this week.
Wow.
I've got Lorenzen in the 4 range. I need to double check that, but it's a matchup based thing. I'm going to say 4, but in my head I'm thinking 3, but I'm going to say 4
for Lorenzen. Huh? Okay.
If you can't tell this week, I had the time to pre-run my numbers, which I haven't been able to do. So I'm actually using my actual numbers and not guessing this week. So anyway.
Christian Javier at Milwaukee at Oakland. I think that's got to be a 5, right?
Second best on the board to me this week.
Wow, that's a pretty nice option. Brady Singer. Any chance you'd pick him up versus Detroit versus Washington? Pretty nice little 2-step. Brady Singer, a guy on your list this weekend?
No, because I already have him on all my teams, and I haven't dropped him yet. I'm holding.
Did you look ahead to this week? Is that what you're doing?
Oh yeah, I wish. Hopefully it's a retribution week, if you will. I don't think he's that bad, and even Brad Keller, I've dropped Keller, but I'm still keeping an eye on him. I'm gonna go a 4 for Singer, just because a spreadsheet doesn't think as much as we do. It doesn't have feelings. It uses numbers, and it still remembers that Singer was pretty good in these matchups. So I'm going to go 4. And knock on wood, this is the week Singer starts to get some of that good stuff that we've already absorbed, all this bad stuff.
You're going 4 on Singer. Wow.
It wouldn't have, that
I'm
would
not
not
laughing at you.
See, that wouldn't have sounded, if this is the first week of the year, no one would say anything. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's at a quarter of the way through, and it doesn't look as good.
Well, I admire you sticking by your guns on Brady Singer. I mean, to give a guy who has a 7.09 ERA a 4, that's a lot of faith.
Or it's dumb. We'll see. But anyway.
Well, the matchups are so good.
Detroit and Washington. I got to go. I got to do it.
No 2-star pitchers for the Angels, so we'll take that opportunity to throw to a quick word from our Blue Wire sponsors. We are back on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Clay Link here with FSWA Hall of Famer Todd Zola, grading all of next week's 2-star pitchers. And Gavin Stone expected to be the replacement for Dustin May. Really tough break for May. He's pitching so well. Going to be out for an extended period. So they said that, or I think Dave Roberts said that Stone makes the most sense, or I forget. Yeah, makes the most sense how he phrased it. So sounds like he'll be in there, but it is at Atlanta, then at Tampa Bay. I love the upside here with this arm, but these matchups, yeah, it sucks when you got a guy like this who's so good, and then he gets a 2-star week, and it's these matchups. So I'm only going to go with a 1.
I have him at 101, which puts him at a 0, but I have to go 1. I mean, whether it changes or not, I don't know. But yeah, no, you have to go 1. I'm with you, and I would probably use him and cross my fingers.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I'll have to make that call in any traditional weekly leagues, but yeah, that'll be a tough test for the youngster there.
Yeah.
Edward Cabrera's got to go at Colorado, so I don't even need to look at the second one. That's got to be a 0.
And he left his last one with a blister. So oftentimes it doesn't, it's fine, but oftentimes it's not. But yeah, we're going to go 0.
What about Yuri Perez, though? At Colorado, at the Angels. The hot pickup, nobody wants to swap him out. I still think I'd only give him like a 3, though.
I think I'm gonna say 1, but I'm shy about starting him.
I'm gonna lower mine to 2, but
I'm gonna go 1.
Right.
I don't want to, I know he's pitched well, but it's tough in Colorado.
Corbin Burns is going to be a 5 for me still. He's home against Houston, home against San Francisco. So Corbin Burns is a 5.
Yep.
And then what about Colin Ray? He's had flashes, but I couldn't see it. I mean, I like him as like a swingman long reliever, but 0 for Colin Ray.
Yeah. I know they're home, but you don't love the home park. Yeah, no, I'm going to go 0.
Man, Bailey Ober just pitching really well versus San Francisco, versus Toronto next week. I think I'm going to go 4.
Yep, I am as well.
Bailey Ober's been just outstanding, so I'm going to have to give him some love there. What about Cody Senga at the Cubs at Colorado? God, that at Colorado always just dings guys so much, but I think I'll go with a 2.
I have him borderline 2. I think I am also going to go with a 2. He has the strikeout potential to not stink in course. He 12 and 6 innings last time. So I'm gonna go 2.
Just a quick aside, we had a question in the chat about Bryce Elder and if he might crash, and if you'd take Yuri Perez over Elder. That might be tough with that Colorado start coming up, but I think I'd give the edge to Perez over the rest of the season. But Elder is not a guy I want to drop.
Yeah, and contextually as well, I don't know how many innings we're going to get out of Perez down the stretch. So I'm thinking more about the next 6 weeks and then worry about after that. I think if you need a boost, if your staff's a little bit behind, if you've been starting Brady Singer, then I can see going Perez because I think the upside's higher.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay, Garrett Cole's a 5, right? And you said 2 on Senga, right?
Yeah.
Borderline 2. Drew Rosinski and Luis Medina are both going to be 0s for me. I don't really need to look at those guys more.
You're not going to do any Tone Loc for us for the funky cold Medina?
If he were actually funky and cold, maybe I would. But
well, he's cold. He's not so funky though.
Yeah, but I mean like cold, like ice cold, like
okay,
stone cold Steve Austin. He's not that. Taijuan Walker. Here's a guy that I thought. Well, it wasn't the WBC, but I thought he looked good in the WBC, and I thought, Taijuan's not terrible, but he's got a 6.53 ERA. He's been terrible so far. Versus Arizona at Atlanta. Matt Strahm might actually. Well, Matt Strahm's been pitching out of the bullpen, so.
Yeah, but Falter's down in the minors, so Strahm may come back up.
Yeah, that's true.
Not come back up, be reinserted into the rotation.
Yeah. All right, but before we get to Strahm, I'm going to say Walker 2.
I'm not giving him that much credit because he's not going deep into games.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I get he and Carrasco confused because they have similar, MOs, if you will. Yeah, I mean, you know what? It was the last game. He only pitched 2/3, but before that, he wasn't going all that deep. So, you know what? I'm still going to stick with a 1. I just don't trust it.
Yeah, it's a hard guy to feel good about right now, Taijuan Walker. And Strom, just because he has been shortened up, I'm going to go 0. Pitching well, but not a guy I expect to go 5.
Yeah, no, I agree, and for that reason, I agree. And I don't know who Philly could call up right now because they pretty much called up everybody they could. But
Painter's not close, is he?
No, well,
maybe later this year.
Yeah, it's one of those things where every time I look every week, I think I am for 10 starts, whatever. And I always, am I going to make that 5 or 15? Because it's still a little bit vague. But Falter's been disappointing, quite frankly. Kind of liked him as a quiet end of the rotation filler. Hasn't done it, just hasn't come through. I'm going to go 0 for Strom as well.
No 2-star pitchers for Pittsburgh, and then Darvish has got to be a 5, right? He's got a couple road starts, but he's been great. So he's going to be a 5 for me, Darvish.
Where did I see him? Oh, there he is. I see him. Yep. No, he's number 11. So that's a 5. That's a 5.
Luis Castillo's, kind of hit a few bumps in the road lately. It's kind of bumming me out a little bit. He hasn't been.
The Red Sox got to him. I mean, he's been fine.
Yeah. He's given up 6 homers his last 4 starts, but 5.73 ERA over his last 4. But I think he'll be just fine. So versus Oakland versus Pitt, that's a 5.
He's my number 1 guy this week on the board.
Number 1, huh? Yeah. Wow.
Number 1. Those matchups are just too good, and they're both at home. And Pittsburgh isn't, the water has found its level in the 3 rivers there.
Marco Gonzalez was able to limit hard contact until he wasn't able to anymore. Not a skill. 3-1, but a 6.10 ERA versus Oakland versus Pitt. I guess I have to consider him as maybe a pickup this week where I need an option, but still can't go higher than a 1.
With those matchups. Yeah, I think you're going to go 1 with those matchups, but even then I don't love it. But yeah.
Yeah, it is Marco Gonzalez.
I mean, he sneaks a win out of one of those 2 games, right?
Yeah, you're playing with fire, but I do think he probably grabs a win or 2. 1 at least. Alex Cobb, sub-2 ERA, and he's going to be a 5 for me.
I don't know why, I mean, this year we don't have to talk about regression. He's if it's any regression, it's the other kind. I don't love the matchups, but I think he is a 5.
Yeah, he paid his debt to the BABIP gods last year. Now he's kind of reaping the benefits, or just kind of enjoying the luck on his side finally a little bit. Ryan Weber got called up today from AAA Sacramento. We have him penciled in to start. Not somebody I'm going to be looking to stream, though. So Ryan Walker is 0.
Ryan Walker. You said Weber the first. We're talking Ryan Walker.
Did I say Weber?
Yeah, you said Weber. We were joking about Walker.
Yeah, Ryan Walker.
Earlier. Yeah. I suppose we could see Shamanaya back in the rotation, in which case it's a -1. But I'm with you, 0 on Walker. Just a 27-year-old guy who has earned the call up, but I'm not expecting anything.
No, me neither. Jordan Montgomery of the Cardinals, he's at Cincinnati, then at Cleveland. Hasn't been pretty for him so far, and you don't like Great American Small Park, but I still think Montgomery's like a 3.
I'm going to go 4.
Okay. Again,
that's the spreadsheet talking, and that it still thinks he's a good pitcher.
That makes sense. Josh Fleming. So He actually worked as like a traditional starter, went 5, and he's gone 5, 4, and then 5. So he's not a guy that's definitely going to fall short of qualifying for the win. Not a great bet to do that either. Doesn't have any decisions this year. Versus Toronto, versus the Dodgers. Woof.
Yeah, you could have started there and saved some time.
Yeah, I'm going to go 0.
I am as well. But he's the kind of guy that can frustrate you, right? And then you go back to the go shaking your head. How did I not hit that pitch? But I'm going to go with 0.
Taj Bradley returned yesterday for the Tampa Bay Rays. No decision against the Mets. 2 runs on 3 hits, 2 walks, struck out 4 over 5 innings. So they were kind of getting him back, or they're kind of transitioning him to that once every 6 days, right? Or they're kind of changing his pitching schedule, and he was having some issues down on the farm, but good to see him back and having some success. Hate this 2-step, though, so I'm going to only go 1, and that's a points league 1, probably mostly.
Yeah, I'm going to go 1 as well, and it's Tampa's good. They may pick out a win in one of these 2 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll probably start him in the Tout Wars head-to-head league, but that's about it. Head-to-head points, but I'm not going to risk my ratios where I have him. Dane Dunning at Pitt, at Baltimore. I think he was on the list last week, so that just shows that these are all very tentative. But, man, with those matchups, the way Dunning's been pitching, at Pitt, at Baltimore, I'm going to go 4, I think.
I've got him on that 3 to 4 cusp.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go 4. Mainly because I like Dane Dunning. I was impressed. I've been impressed with what I've seen out of Dane Dunning, so I'm going to go 4. I'd like to see Texas just leave him in there and see what he can do.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. Chris Bassett and Jose Barrios for Toronto. They're both going to be at Tampa Bay, then at Minnesota. Bassett, certainly feel better about him than you do Barrios. God, I hate facing Tampa Bay, but Bassett's legit. So I'm going to go – I think I'm going to go 4 on Bassett. Even with these matchups, I don't really see swapping him out anywhere.
I got 5 on Bassett. I have him top 10 this week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I have 5 on Bassett. I tweeted this out yesterday, and yes, it was a sub. The sub context was Jose Barrios, but if baseball players stopped flipping between being good and bad, it would be a whole lot easier for you and me and others to decide if they're good or bad.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Barrios looked really good last time out. Yeah. I'm going to give him a 3.
Barrios is such a – I guess Chris Sale's is a real Jekyll and Hyde, but over the past 5 years, it's been Barrios. Just from one outing to the next, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So what do you say on Barrios?
Saying 3.
Okay, I'm going to go 3 too.
Minnesota hits righties really good, but they're terrible against lefties. With the addendum that splits against lefties even now are subject or sketchy. I was going to say subject to change, which really didn't what I wanted to say. Suspect was the word I was looking for. Even now, splits against lefties, you can't trust them.
Mackenzie Gore versus San Diego at Kansas City. I like what the kid is showing. I think you're going to go with a 3, though.
I'm going to go with a 4. San Diego, you got to believe at some point they're going to start to make some pitchers pay. I hope it's not this weekend in the Xander Bogaerts Revenge series. But, do I want to go higher? No, I'm going to go 4.
All right. Well, to recap our 2-start pitcher grades for the week of May 22nd, 2023. Tommy Henry, 0. Spencer Strider, 5. Dylan Dodd, I say 0. Todd, 1. Kyle Bradish, 3. Drew Smiley, I say 3. Todd, 4. Brandon Williamson, go Reds, 1. Graham Ashcraft, I say 2. Todd, 1. Peyton Battenfield, 0. Chase Anderson, 0. Austin Gomber, 0. Mike Clevenger, I say 2. Todd, 3. Dylan Cease, I say 4, Todd 5. Michael Lorenzen, I say 3, Todd 4. Eduardo Rodriguez, great story this year. He's a 5. Christian Javier, also a 5. Brady Singer, I say 2, Todd 4. Gavin Stone, 1. Edward Cabrera, 0. Yuri Perez, I say 2, Todd 1. Corbin Burns, 5. Colin Ray, 0. Bailey Ober, 4. Cody Senga, 2. Garrett Cole, 5. Drew Rosinski, 0. Luis Funky Cold Medina, 0. Taiwan Walker, I say 2, Todd 1. Matt Strom, 0. Yu Darvish, 5. Luis Castillo, 5. Marco Gonzalez, 1. Alex Cobb, 5. Ryan Walker, 0. Jordan Montgomery, I say 3, Todd 4. Josh Fleming, 0. Taj Bradley, a 1. Dane Dunning, 4. Chris Bassett, I say 4, Todd 5. Jose Barrios, 3. Mackenzie Gore, I say 3. And Todd 4. Todd, anything else on your mind today before we sign off?
Real quick, the touts have been hitting it out of the park with the tout table this year. Sometime this weekend, we're going to be posting. I asked everybody for a tip on what they do in their free agent process. And we've got some interesting stuff that I didn't know. I didn't think of that. So I hope we hear, well, if you read it to yourself, you'll hear it. But I hope you think a lot. Hey, I think that's a good idea. That'll go up sometime this weekend on toutwars.com. A tip to everybody's free agent process.
Yeah, it's awesome. You got another day or so before you post that, you think?
Yep, for sure.
I'm going to chime in there. So I know I said I was going to do that last week, and I just didn't have time.
It's all right.
I mean, it's pretty basic, but I always start with just setting my lineup the next week. Is that what most people do?
You know what? That's one of the Eric Halterman mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
Co-host on a couple XXM shows with me, and I think that. And what I said to him was, it's brilliant in its simplicity.
Yeah,
you know, it makes so much sense.
I feel like that's where most people should start.
I don't know that they do, and what it does for me is it makes, sometimes you just kind of like look for the red arrow, whatever might point to an injured guy. But as an example, doing this, I'm like, wait a minute, I still have Matt Verling in my lineup. I mean, maybe I don't want to drop him, but I can't start him. I got to find somebody better. So that's what it's done for me, is when I set my lineup, it forces me to look at everybody and may identify someone who I may have overlooked. What Eric says is that, it points out right away who he needs to replace because they're hurt. For me, yes, but it also, who am I keeping my lineup that I really got to get out of there because they no longer deserve it, that I may just kind of look down. He starts. Ooh, I need to get rid of him. He's starting, but he's platooning or whatever, something like that.
Well, definitely check that out, and check out the Tout Wars FAAB results on Sunday night, a few hours before NFBC runs.
8:30 Eastern. Yes, my goal is to have them posted at 8:30 Eastern.
Very good thing to cross-reference. Be sure you didn't miss anybody. Well, thanks so much, Todd. Right. Thank you all. It was a good turnout today in the chat. We appreciate it. Hope you'll join us next week on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by Rival Fantasy.
Yeah.